Good afternoon, Grace Covenant. Thanks for enduring that little bit of a Bach fugue as we begin our time together today. I have to admit that I have a love-hate relationship with the music of J.S. Bach, and especially fugues. For years, I had this anxiety about even performing them in public. I partly stopped that because I don't want it to go through the whole devotion time and take up the whole afternoon. It's a delightful fugue. And fugues are a great way to social distance because if you play them in their entirety, people will stay away from you. But I love this fugue, but it challenges me. It's been in my repertoire for a long time, and every time I come back to it, it teaches me so much about what I need to know and how I need to stay focused. And I want to draw some parallels today because I've been thinking about, as I shared a couple weeks ago, this is a different way in which music sort of informs me not only as a musician but as a individual living in our society, and how just not to be a good musician but to even just be a good human being. And the challenge with fugues is that it's a type of music known as contrapuntal music. Now, contrapuntal music simply means that all voices are equal. Every time a new voice enters, it has the same level of importance as the voices that have come before it. And the voices interweave, and they may weave in and out, but as they sound, they are sounding equally in dialogue, which is very different from music which may have a melody, which our ear is drawn to the melody and we're not really as cognizant of what's going on underneath that, other than there's something accompanying that and supporting what our ear is drawn to. In contrapuntal music, our ear is drawn to hear at every single level and at every single layer. And that is a challenge for the performer in learning to keep everything equal. And it is a challenge for the performer just in performing to stay focused. I find I am in my deepest level of concentration when trying to play a fugue. And very aware of distractions around me when that happens, because you're so focused on trying to let that dialogue play out and hear those voices as they work with one another. And it has me thinking that there has been so much unrest in our society lately, not just the pandemic, but the racial tensions and the recent deaths of 2 black men in our country. And it reminds me that in this culture that we live in, we still don't live in a place where all voices are equal. We don't live in a culture where everyone has a say equally. And it's difficult. As difficult as learning and mastering a fugue, to have that sort of thing be a part of society. And it makes me think, what would society look like if every single voice was heard and heard equally and carried the same weight? I believe that that is what Jesus lived and died for, so that each one of us could be heard and each one of us be equal. And so I want to challenge you today. Maybe go listen to a fugue. Maybe find this one online. This is Bach's Fugue in C minor, from the Fantasy and Fugue in C minor. It's dense and complex music. And sometimes I find people don't want to listen to dense and complex music. People don't want to play it. I even have had that own anxiety in my personal life, because it takes so much energy and so much time, and yet the end result is rewarding beyond anything. To be able to master and finish a fugue is a great sense of accomplishment. And I think when you tune your ears to listen to something that dense and complex, then when you go back and listen to things that are simpler, maybe things that just have a melody and accompaniment, you're actually more aware of the importance even then of how all the parts relate and are important to one another. So I challenge you, Grace Covenant, to listen and to strive for balance, for equality. Let your voice be heard, but listen for those other voices so that we can join together in a harmonious, complex music that brings joy to our Creator, who has called us to all be equal in God's sight, and who has loved us and died for us so that that might be. So be well, stay home, stay safe, stay connected, and know that you are loved. Thanks be to God.